Now, talking about lefties losing it, remember this chat before the election featuring TDS duo actor Robert De Niro and TV host Bill Maher?
If he wins the election, you won't be on the show anymore. He'll come looking for me. There'll be things that happen that none of us can imagine. That's what happens in that kind of a dictatorship, which is what he says. Let's believe him. Take him at his word.
I did from the beginning.
Yeah.
I mean, I said from the very beginning, this guy is never going to concede power.
A dictatorship? Well, no one has come for Robert De Niro, and Bill Maher is still on TV. And now he will be meeting President Donald Trump at the White House. This has been set up by one of Maher's recent guests and one of Trump's friends, rockstar Kid Rock. Let's bring in Newsweek's senior editor-at-large and Article 3 Project Senior Counsel, Josh Hammer. Josh, what do you think about this? I've got to say, I am not a fan of this plan.
Rita, I don't trust Bill Maher, to put it mildly. I mean, the same way that I don't trust Mark Zuckerberg and a lot of these California liberals who are increasingly in Donald Trump's good graces. Having said that, even though I don't trust him, I'm not sure that it's a politically bad move for Donald Trump. There's very little in the way of downside here. Frankly, there's only potential upside. I mean, Rita, before the election, you and I discussed how the 2024 election in America really did not come down necessarily to an ideological right versus an ideological left divide. Rather, you had the MAGA America First Coalition, which is basically a nonpartisan coalition of the common sense. That's how you had so many prominent ex-Democrats, people like RFK Jr., Tulsi Gabbard there. And then on the other hand, you had the civilizational arsonists, the woke crazies there. Now, again, Bill Maher is a liberal. I disagree with him on more issues than I agree with him on there, but he is very anti-woke. There are some things that he's potentially amenable to the Trump administration's message on. And more importantly, he's got a massive audience. I mean, he has an absolutely massive audience. His show has won God knows how many Emmy Awards here in the United States there. He has genuine reach there. Just kind of colloquially speaking here in my circles there, people watch his show. I mean, his message gets out there. So if Donald Trump can kind of bring him in, and if Bill Maher can at least become slightly less hysterically Trump derangement syndrome induced, I'm not getting my hopes up for that, by the way. But if there's any possibility of that happening there, seems like it's worth it to me. Again, I don't trust the guy there, but I see very little in the way of downside for this play.
I think he gets a golden run, Josh. Not only is Maher a TDS sufferer, I think he benefits from the bigotry of low expectations conservatives have these days for the left, because occasionally, yes, he'll say something that's anti-woke. He'll point out some sensible point of view, something the right has been saying for years, and we'll stand around and clap like he's said something profound, even though it's really just repeating what has been said by the other side of politics for a long time. But as Megyn Kelly exposed in her chat with Maher, this dude is in a bubble, profoundly ignorant of stuff that he pretends to be passionate about, like election denial.
Hillary Clinton, of course, is the original election denier. I'm sure you voted for her in 2016.
Well, she's not an election denier.
She absolutely was the OG election denier.
First of all, she came out before the sun had risen to concede the election to Trump.
And then spent the next 4 years saying he was illegitimate. He was an illegitimate president.
Okay, well, first of all, she didn't say he was an illegitimate.
Yes, she did.
You tell me exactly what she said.
She said those exact words repeatedly.
I believe he knows he's an illegitimate president.
Okay.
What do you say to that? Because, yes, amongst other left-wing commentators and TV hosts, he's far more sensible, far more balanced. But at the end of the day, he has bought all this propaganda about Trump and hasn't bothered to check some of that information, including things like things that have been debunked for years that the left still are pushing these to this day.
Rita, look, I am not a Bill Maher apologist. I'll be very candid with you. I don't even watch his show, actually. But having said that, I've had a number of friends here who have been on his show there. And I can tell you that based on what I've heard from those who have been there on the show with him, some of them have actually tried to talk in private off camera. I won't name names. I won't kind of get into that. But some of them have actually tried to talk about Trump with him off camera there. And they here, there, and everywhere hit a block because he seems to just genuinely have a mental block when it comes to Donald Trump there. He has a very hard time getting over that. Even if he is sympathetic to a lot of his policies there, he's definitely sympathetic to a lot of what Trump says when it comes to the dangers of radical Islam. He's very pro-Israel. I mean, like free speech. I mean, there's some stuff that he genuinely seems to disagree with the modern left on, but he has a massive holdup when it comes to Donald Trump. That's probably what Donald Trump is thinking and taking this meeting, actually. He's like, okay, this guy's a massive critic of mine. He's got a gargantuan platform. Maybe I can bring him in and like, you know, let's get a McDonald's Happy Meal or something. And I'll show him like I'm not a fascist, that I'm not straight out of Munich in 1933 or something there. Again, maybe not the greatest odds in the world of succeeding there, but I'm just not necessarily seeing the downside here.
Oh, look, I think it has a potential to backfire because, yes, he does rail against the modern left occasionally, but that's because he realises that it's stopping them from being elected. He wants the Democrats in power. He's a fan of Gavin Newsom, wants him to be president. So you look at what he's done to California. That's yeah, I've got my doubts about this. We're going to keep a close eye, but I've got a feeling this is going to backfire. Now let's talk about failed VP candidate Tim Walz. He's been forced to apologise, well, sort of, for this idiotic outburst.
They've got that little stock app. I added Tesla to it to give me a little boost during the day. 225 and dropping.
Now here Tim Walz sort of apologises, but then he mocks the right for being, and I quote, butthurt. This clown is all over the place.
This guy bugs me in a way that is probably unhealthy. And but I have to be careful about being a smartass. I was making a joke. These people have no sense of humor. They are the most literal people. But my point was they're all mad, and I, said something I didn't, probably shouldn't have about a company. He is. Agree. They're all butthurt about the Tesla thing.
Josh, does he even realise that the fall in Tesla prices hurts the people in his state? Not to mention the tens of thousands of Americans that Tesla employs.
He probably does not actually realize that because he's not operating at a particularly high intelligence level, if I'm just calling it like I see it here. There actually are some moderate-ish Democrats who are not going like full, complete, utter, disgusting jerk when it comes to the issue of Tesla. So, for instance, Ro Khanna, who comes from Silicon Valley. He plays footsie with a lot of the big tech bigwigs. He had an interview this past week, Rita, where he said, I'm not rooting against Tesla. Tesla employs 20,000 people in my district. Okay, thank you for speaking some common sense there. But Tim Walz doesn't really know common sense from the other side of his foot there. I mean, this man speaks drivel, and when he's not speaking drivel, he's speaking far left ideological pablum there. Thank God this man is not the vice president of the United States right there. I mean, frankly, rooting for an iconic American company to fail in this manner, to root for people who are living off of their investment income, living off their capital gains, people who are in their 60s, 70s, who are retired, who are just living off of their dividends, whatever they're rooting for them to fail is nothing short of disgusting. It's not about Elon Musk. It actually is virtually nothing to do with Elon Musk. This company has a ton of employees, workers who work at the manufacturing mills, and you have investors there. So it's really about them. By the way, I have to say, it was not that long ago, I feel like it was basically yesterday, that Tesla was actually culturally here in America was largely a left-wing company. That was as recently as probably 3, 4, 5 years ago before Elon Musk started making his turn towards the rights. And it was considered to be a culturally left-wing company for a very obvious reason, is that it's an electric vehicle. It was considered to be the clean energy equivalent of the gas-guzzling pickup trucks from Ford and Chevy there. Heck, Rita, I remember in some of my conservative circles, just like during COVID 4 or 5 years ago, we were making fun of liberals for driving Teslas. Teslas. So, I mean, how quickly things change there. I don't personally drive a Tesla. I happen to think that it's wonderful technology, not really my cup of tea, to be honest with you. But the point is, this is an American company that has American employees and employs a lot of Americans, including right there in Tim Walz's state of Minnesota. And you have a lot of people that are dependent upon Tesla stock going up and up and up, as the underlying value of the company should dictate that it will do, to actually live out the rest of their lives. So shame on you, Tim Walz, and thank God, sir, that you are not vice president of this great country.
I think he's the worst vice presidential candidate we have seen. I struggle to think of anybody who has been more disastrous, just more bizarre, more out of touch. And he's the governor of Minnesota. Minnesota state employees have Tesla shares in their pension funds. So if he's cheering on the falling share prices, he knows it's hurting them, or he at least should know. Now, talking about Elon Musk, he's had enough. He has said that he's suing CNN after a panelist, Jamal Bowman, called him a thief and a Nazi.
He's incompetent, he's a thief, he's a Nazi, and people don't trust him.
I'm not a lawyer, you are a lawyer, but that looks like a slam dunk defamation case if Elon follows through.
So the guy he's talking to there, Joe Borelli, is a personal friend. Joe Borelli is from Staten Island. He's a no-nonsense New Yorker, and I wish we saw the rest of that clip, Rita, because I know that Joe Borelli probably socked Jamal Bowman, proverbially speaking, right across the face. Look, Jamal Bowman lost his primary in New York City for being a genuine moron, two, for just being as ideologically left-wing as they come, someone who was basically openly cheering on October 7th Hamas. I mean, I'm barely exaggerating there. Someone who has taken every radical defund the police, open borders, defund ICE, every left-wing lunatic stance imaginable, that guy has taken there. Now, when you're calling someone a Nazi here, look, the technical legal standard, and by the way, this is made up. The Supreme Court made this up. This is not what the First Amendment actually says. But in a 1960s case called New York Times versus Sullivan, the Supreme Court basically said that when you have a defamation suit involving a public figure, with which Elon Musk clearly is, then the burden of proof would be on the public figure, and here that's Elon Musk, to show that the person saying it, that's Jamal Bowman, acted with actual malice. That's the legal standard, actual malice. So look, you definitely, it's possible. It's absolutely possible in this particular case there. You would definitely need some evidence and get to a jury. It would be a whole process there. If you're Elon Musk and you're the wealthiest guy in the world, what do you have to lose by bringing this lawsuit there? You're not worried about attorney fees or anything like that. Go ahead and do it. Send a message to these thugs. Rita, Jamal Bowman's a thug. These people are bullies. The people that are coming across Elon Musk. The only way to deal with a bully, whether it's on a playground in a kindergarten or whether it's on a CNN set, the way you deal with a bully is that you can't just cower in the corner and just let the bully punch you. You have to stand up for yourself and start throwing some punches back there. So if that means Elon Musk file a defamation suit, I say Godspeed and go for it.
Now, Donald Trump got a huge reception over the weekend when he attended the packed Wells Fargo Center arena for the NCAA Wrestling Championships. I had no idea this was such a big deal. The crowd there was huge, and he got a salute from Wyatt Hendrickson, who won the national championship.
Captain America. Captain America.
Rob, I can't believe it.
My jaw's on the floor.
He did it.
And he got a hug there from the champion as well. And we don't see that at sporting events. We've certainly seen it at the UFC. We've seen it at the football. Trump, as much as he is hated by the media and they tell us the polls are against him, when he goes to these sporting events, you're hearing cheers, and that is not normal. Normally, the fans are booing politicians.
Yeah, and he's done this many times now, right? So he actually went to the first NASCAR race of the season, the Daytona 500, which is called the Great American Race there.
Too, yeah.
he got a massive round of applause there at the Daytona 500. He went to the Alabama-Georgia football game this past year, the Army-Navy football games. Everywhere he goes to these big sporting games, he gets a massive round of applause. He's become the modern day Barack Obama insofar as he's the new cultural totem. He's the new cultural icon. Back in 2008, all the cultural momentum in this country was with hope and change and Barack Obama. The cultural momentum right now is with MAGA and America First. It's an absolutely incredible sea change. The Democratic Party, frankly, only has themselves to blame for it as their approval ratings crater into the 20s. The most recent polling has their net approval rating hovering around 27 to 29% or so. So they only have themselves to blame for it there. All Donald Trump basically has to do is get up there and sound normal and talk about normal issues and talk about trying to solve normal people's problems in a normal way there. Maybe insert a funny joke here or there. He's very good at that. He's a very funny guy. And then you have a recipe for being a smashing success in today's day and age in America, and that's what he's done.
Well, that's what we are seeing. The media is still having its meltdown. The American public seem to be pretty comfortable with what's happening. Josh Hammer, thank you so much for your time tonight.
Thank you, Rita.